Hello, and welcome to the Inside EVs podcast for August the 5th, 2022. This is episode 122. On today's show, we'll be talking about the coming Bmw i4 eDrive 35, the price and other details of the US-made small battery Volkswagen ID.4, and the possible coming of an electric Corvette car and crossover. I'm Dominic Chioni, Inside EVs 4 moderator and Inside EVs editor. Joining us today is the indefatigable Tom Malogny, Inside EVs editor and host of the YouTube channel State of Charge. We also have the motivational Mr. Martin Lee from the EV News Daily podcast, which is available on all the best podcast platforms. And we're also joined today by Inside EVs editor Andrei and Nedelia. He's joining us from Romania. And of course, your friendly neighborhood Kyle Connor joins us from the majestic, practically palatial halls of Autospec Studios, where he produces high voltage videos for a growing number of YouTube channels. All right. So before we get going, I'd like to ask that you please subscribe to the channel. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can hit that bell icon for hit the thumbs up button. I'll get this straight in a second, and ring that bell icon for notifications so you'll know immediately when a new video is published. If you're watching us on Twitch, you can also ring that bell icon for notifications. All right. So with that out of the way, welcome everybody.
Great to see you guys.
Y'all had a good week. Welcome back to the United States, Mr. Kyle Connor.
Thank you. That was a disaster getting back, but I made it.
Why?
Right.
What happened?
Oh, Lufthansa happened.
Oh no! Thanks, Lufthansa.
Oh no! Like Germany went on like some strike, and all the flights were mixed up. So basically, I had to go from Munich to Frankfurt connection, and then missed the flight to Denver, and then it was like a 32-hour overnight. Couldn't find my bags, and it was a bit of a disaster, but made it and all good. Flew in last night.
Wow. And you sent Jordan back before you as an advanced party, because I saw him doing a road trip a few days before you were back.
Yes.
So you were left there on your own.
He stole my Rivian. I didn't even know. I was just seeing pictures of my truck. Like, where are you going with this thing?
Good man.
That sounds like a good plan. Actually, we should have him on and tell us about your Rivian.
I haven't even talked to him. I don't know what he's doing with it. It'd be great to find out.
You're not even in the same part of the country right now, are you?
No, he's in Colorado somewhere. I'm in Colorado somewhere, but I'm driving to California for this big Tesla takeover event tomorrow.
Okay, we'll talk about that in a second. We'll get to what we're driving and all that. But let's kick this thing off with news, and then we'll get to what we've been driving this week. So not really huge product news this week, but there are a couple of new trims coming that I think are worth looking at. So let's start with the Bmw i4 eDrive 35. That's a mouthful, but that's a lower trim coming to the Bmw i4, which is already available in the i4 eDrive 40 and the performance-oriented i4 M50. This new variant is a little down on price. So it starts at $52,395. That's including destination. And that's $4,500 less than the price tag on the base eDrive 40. So for that money, you get the smaller 70.2 kilowatt-hour battery pack. So they say BMW estimates that's good for 260 miles of range. Do we get that? Right. And so you get the single 281 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque, single motor in the back. So it goes 0 to 60 in 5.8 seconds. That's quick. Not bad.
Which is almost as quick as the eDrive 40, by the way.
Right. So this model variant will debut in Europe first. So Andrei, I guess it'll come to y'all first, and
in Germany, actually, I think they
Germany,
get it first, and then the rest of Europe. Yeah.
Okay, so the rest of Germany then will get it in Q4 2022, and then US gets it in Q1 of 2023. So Andrei, people are still going to pay. Are people going to pay over $50,000? Sorry, let me pose this properly. So people are going to pay over $50,000 for this, new trim of the i4. Do you think people will choose 40 miles less miles of range to save $4,500?
Well, I was actually asking myself the same question while I was writing the article. Who is it for? Because with incentives and tax credits and all of that, the difference is really negligible. And I think people should probably go for the one with the bigger battery and more range. I think that's the sensible thing to do, given the small price difference. I think.
Right. That's what
That's my
how it
opinion,
struck-
anyway.
Right. That was my opinion too. Yeah, I don't know. Kyle, what do you see here? Anything in that package you think looks interesting?
Yeah, I don't really know who it's for. I'm right with you guys. It's a very interesting situation all around as to why they needed this.
Right.
It's the battery pack and the powertrain from the electric 3 Series that they sell in China, and they brought it to the i4 for Europe. I think it's
really?
been on sale for a year or slightly less in China. They have an
When
i3.
Didn't
i3
a 3 Series in China just burn up?
Yeah,
I
it
think so.
was one of
Did you see
those.
that?
It was during a test drive, I think, a dealership test drive or
That
something.
sucks.
Yeah,
Well, that bodes well.
went pretty badly.
So I'll be the contrarian here.
Okay.
I'm all for this, and I think $4,500 makes a big difference to a lot of buyers. You know, it's on a 3-year lease. It's more than $100 a month. Might be $125 a month when you factor in the the interest. So yeah, to me, you're not giving up much, and the range is more than acceptable, 260 miles or so. And I think that's the estimate BMW gave is probably going to be spot on, because the rear wheel drive base model previously, the eDrive 40, is it? I forget the exact nomenclature.
Yeah.
That's 301 miles. So it's got about 10 less kilowatt hour. So in this averages somewhere around 3.5 miles per kilowatt hour. So I think 260, 270 is reasonable to assume. And you're not giving up that much more. And your monthly payment might be $100 less, more than $100 less. So to me, I think this is a good play for BMW. It's going to put more people in the vehicle. Now, if the 4,500 doesn't make much of a difference to you, then I agree with you guys. Go for the bigger battery, a slightly more content version of it. But I think it's just more about it's getting more people in an i4 that couldn't stretch their budget to get into the previous version. So I'm all for it. I think it works.
Tom, I get that, but I think the $4,500 isn't enough of a spread to, like, if you're leasing the car, okay, maybe if you're just keeping it in the city, but then why not put an even smaller battery pack in there and make it less expensive? Because they've already proved a ton of i3 sales. They're everywhere in Germany. There's a lot of people who don't need 260 miles of range. They just need 150 miles of range, and then maybe make the car 10 grand less.
We're talking about price. To think about it, my i3, I paid more for my i3 than what this is selling for. You know, that's
really?
They have gone, we have made strides, and but the i3 was very unique. The expense went into the carbon fiber frame and all the lightweight materials that they use and so forth. But, I listen, would I like to have an $8,000 spread and say, really make it a distinct difference? Of course, but I still think it works. I think that most people, at least here in the US, lease vehicles, especially EVs. And I think the lease price on this compared to the previous version is going to be like $120 a month. That's enough to make people say, okay, I'll go for the lesser. If it was $50 a month, maybe not, but it's $120 a month, and that's going to make a difference. That's going to put people in this that wouldn't have been able to get into the i4 before. And
maybe from a driving enthusiast's point of view, the eDrive 35 is going to be the lightest of them all, so the best to drive. And since it's only like 3/4 slower to sprint to 60 compared to the 40, I think that could also make a difference, and maybe draw people into this base version. Because I drove the i4 recently, and it's like 2.34 tons, and you can definitely feel it.
Was that the M50 you drove?
Yeah, I did drive that one.
You like it?
We're going to talk about that in a bit.
Okay,
yeah,
sorry.
We'll get to it.
Ignore me.
No, it's okay.
Stop
Martin.
jumping Dominic's order, Martin. I mean, Martin needs structure. Dominic needs structure.
I have got the running order in front of me. I could have just looked at it,
One day we should all just completely talk about things out of order. Even though Dominic tries to steer us in the right direction, his head will explode.
I know.
We have to do that one day. We just have to plan it
Yeah.
and just completely. He'll say, "So Tom, what do you think about the Chevy Bolt?" And I'll be like, Yeah, so Lucid's production numbers have been down. Like, just completely do that one time. Dominic will be like, but that's
literally.
next.
He'll come for you. He'll come for you.
I'll pull my guitar out and start playing songs randomly or something. All right. So I don't know. I'm looking at this BMW, this eDrive 35. I'm thinking, you know, which one I would get? But Tesla Model 3 rear-wheel drive for like a few $1,000s less.
Version of the BMW i4 you would get.
Yeah, with the same range and this is probably lighter and the supercharger network, all that kind of stuff. You know, I'm like, this is, I don't know. I mean, they're pretty close cars, right? And some people like the BMW i4 more than Tesla Model 3.
I think more people say that the Tesla drives better than the i4, and maybe Kyle can chip in and tell us if that's true or not.
Yeah.
So is the Model 3 better to drive and more fun than an i4?
From an enthusiast perspective,
from
yes,
an enthusiast
100%.
perspective, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Model 3 is the way to go.
Right.
But as cars, entirely different. As an experience of being inside, of what you see, what you do, how you interact with the car. Entirely different cars. Almost not worth cross shopping because
I mean,
they're so different inside.
It's true. It's true. I mean, if you because the BMW i4 is pretty nice. I haven't been inside it myself personally, but I've been inside some BMWs. It's nice. It's pretty nice, right? Yeah,
it's really
and
nice.
Tesla is like, I mean, it's okay, but it's not like nice. It's just
not.
You know, it's a different thing. It's not that kind of car.
I've owned 2 Model 3s, and I tell you, if you had to say right now, start from scratch, put the i4 and a Model 3 on the driveway, I might do i3. I might do i4. I really might. I love the driving experience. I love everything it offers. Yeah, it doesn't have supercharger network. That's a big advantage for Tesla, but I don't drive all over the country like Kyle. So to me, it's not that big of an advantage. And
it charges quick enough. I think it's 210 kilowatts or something.
Right, but the accessibility of the stations with the supercharger network is better, Andrei. So honestly, I'd have to think. I still might end up with the Model 3, but it would be a strong. Like, I'd really have to think about it. That's how much I was impressed. And I haven't driven this new version, but I've driven the both existing versions of the i4, and a great driving experience.
Yeah, I think, and unless you drive it, like, what do you think, Kyle? 8/10, 9/10 before that's where the difference starts to really shine.
Well, there's a lot of minutia, like just Tesla's drivetrain control is a world ahead of BMW. BMW also uses a brake-by-wire, which is a bit too aggressive, and it's a little bit hard to totally modulate everything. Just the way you can dial in with track mode, a virtual model of the car that you can go, okay, I want it to be a drift car. I want it to be hardcore track focused, and it does its own powertrain control. Nothing really comes close to that for the price. It's really a cheat code. The Model 3 performance for the money, you can't buy anything really faster on a back road than that car. That would be a fun test to maybe really explore if that claim is 100% true, but yeah, I did a back-to-back comparison of both cars, same road, same day, and was just having so much more fun in the Model 3 than the i4. And I like the i4. I really did.
Greg in the comments says the supercharger advantage is overstated, not that much of a big deal. Well, it's not a big deal until you go to charge your car on a third-party network and they're all broken or they're all full, and then it's a really big deal.
It happens too. I mean, it sucks at this point, but
I appreciate.
I'm at a supercharger right now, and it's the first. I mean, we'll talk about it a little bit later, but I plugged it in and it didn't work, and then I plugged it in wrong. It was my fault, and then I had to just unplug it and put it back in correctly, and then it worked.
Honestly, you go to Europe for a month and you forget how to charge an American car.
I forget how to use the easiest connector on the planet.
So since we're admitting making mistakes, I have one.
Uh-oh.
So yeah, and like charging of all things, I'm so embarrassed. I certainly wasn't going to admit this, but I had the standard range Lightning to do a range test this week, and I only had it for a set period of time, so I was in a rush, and there was a number of things happened in the morning that delayed. I wanted to get off to a really early start. I couldn't. I was 2 hours delayed, so I'm already flustered. And so I go to the the Electrify America charging station, because I need to charge it up to 100%, get right onto the highway. And I plug in, and it says charge station fault, or it says, cannot charge. So I'm like, oh God, I move over to the other one, plug it in, same thing. I'm playing musical, electrifying. Finally, I call them up. I'm like, look, I need to get this thing activated. Please, none of these stations are working right now. And I didn't go to the station where I usually go to right before my sessions. So I'm on the phone for like a half an hour, and I'm like, look, is there any way you can override? They tried to override, the station wouldn't start. And I'm like, okay, it's ruining my day now. I'm blown, the whole, I can't do this. I have to return the truck. I borrowed it for a few hours. And so Kyle knows what I did wrong, I think. No, I guess he doesn't. I'm looking at your face. So Kyle, you know what I forgot to do?
You forgot to shut off the truck would be my guess.
No, I forgot to one-time charge to 100%.
Oh, you were
and I
trying
was
to get it
plugging
to go up.
it in
Yeah,
at 80%.
Yep.
So it wouldn't, and it was the truck not allowing the station to accept power.
Tom, the truck's set to 90%. So if you plugged in at 80, it should bring you to 90.
It would. Well, it was.
Maybe
it was
the standard
somewhere
range
above,
is different.
It was somewhere above 80%. I don't know exactly where it was because I charged it at home, drove to the charging station. I thought it was at like 82, 83% at this time, but it wouldn't let the vehicle start charging. So, and now I'm frustrated. So I'm like, oh, the day's shot. And I get in a truck, and I actually had my friend Pete, which Kyle knows, was driving my truck because we did side-by-side range tests. I drove the standard range, he drove the extended range, and we did a side-by-side range test. And so we're leaving the parking lot, and I'm cursing, and I'm so upset, like my whole day's shot. And then I'm like, oh, you idiot. So I just spin it around, and Pete doesn't even know what's going on. He turns around, he follows me, and I pull up. I set the thing to 100%, plug in, and it connects. And I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. I wasted another hour of the day. But the funny thing is, Kyle said to me, when he was doing the DC fast charging test, I don't know if we were talking on the phone or on the podcast or whatever, but he said to me, God, this is so annoying that you have to, every time you want to charge to 100% on a DC fast charger, if you're charging at home, level 2, it'll charge to 100%. But on DC fast chargers, it won't let you charge. It stops it at 80%, or Kyle said 90%. I thought it was 80%. So he said, can you figure out how to permanently set it? I've done everything. There's no way to figure it. It's just, that's the way it's set right now. It's one of the things I'm going to complain about to Ford. But so that was like, that's my mea culpa. The charging guy, messed up, and I'm on the phone with Electrify America yelling at them about, you got to get this damn thing to work. And it was on me. And, a lot of times when we watch videos of other channels and other, car reviewers at Electrify America complaining that like it's not working, we're like, you idiot, you didn't do this or that. It's your fault. And it was my fault this time. Now I wasn't going to, make a video on that, but I got to admit, even the healthiest golden retrievers need to be taken to the vet.
Oh, no, don't say that. Oh, no.
Is that a New Jersey expression? I've never heard that before. Healthiest golden retrievers. All right. So we mentioned a couple of weeks ago that a 62 kilowatt hour Volkswagen ID.4 would be made at the Chattanooga, Tennessee factory. Now we have some more details about that car. All the models built in the U.S. will get an upgraded exterior and interior design touches. There's new aluminum alloy wheels and an updated and improved center console. But only one gets a new low price of $38,790, including the destination. So to get this price, not only does the ID.4 standard take away from battery capacity, but also removes glass roof, power seats, heated steering wheel, and a few other amenities. It also loses that 170 kilowatt peak charging rate. But Tom, since it's got a smaller battery, what's the downgrade to max power? Will the downgrade from that max power make much difference during a DC fast charge session?
I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference. And quite honestly, you're talking minutes, if it does. And most people, I mean, Kyle and I might analyze the crap out of something like that. But, the more I'm trying to speak with people as much as possible at DC fast chargers, and I'm there all the time, a few times a week. And I've really come to realize, because people don't completely analyze the hell out of charging like we do, it doesn't make a difference to 99% of the people if they're there for 32 minutes or 38 minutes. Like,
Right.
you know, for me, it goes, oh my God, there's 5 minutes. Like, you got to cut this down to 32 minutes, you know, but most people, they're there. They're either going inside and grabbing something to eat, or I see people out in their cars with their like earbuds on, just laying down, relaxing and taking like some you know, me time while they're charging. And you know, I'm starting to ease up a little bit on being so harsh on manufacturers for cutting down charging time. I know it's important, but watching the people out there, most people aren't going crazy over waiting a few more minutes, and that's a little more surprising that to me than I would. I'm more surprised than I expected to be, because I'm walking up to people, I'm asking them, how long does the car take to charge? You know, I say, I'm a journalist, just curious, are you happy with your charging experience? Of course, I get people that aren't happy from time to time. I had a lady with a Polestar yesterday. As soon as she heard I was a journalist, she like, for half an hour, I wrote letters to Electrify America. I wrote letters to the state of New Jersey. They need to improve infrastructure. I can't use Tesla charging stations. Why can't I just plug into a Tesla? She just wouldn't stop. But for the people that I talk to are happy with the state of charging as it is. And that's really surprising for me.
But not that one lady. Wow.
Oh no, she was naming the people in the Department of Energy, DOE, because you know the DOE has a website that lists all the charging stations. And she was saying she went there, and some of them, she went to stations that had CHAdeMO and she couldn't plug in.
Oh my
she
God.
went to there's stations listed there that have been abandoned and ripped out like a year ago, and they're not removed from the site. So, you know, I told her about PlugShare and about, you know, ChargeWay and things like that. But she was, when she heard that, you know, she wanted me to write an article on her and everything, you know, tell my story. And
Sure.
she wanted to give the Polestar back because charging has been so difficult. But in general, most people, they really don't care if they're there for 25 minutes or 32 minutes. And that's really, like, if you're talking about a little bit lower charging speed, Dom, you're talking a couple of minutes. But you know, I know you asked me specifically about charging, but I love this lower. You know, I'm all for, just like I was with the i3, i4. I'm all for bringing in lower cost alternatives for people, because look at the comments on our channel, on my channel. So everybody is so focused on when are we going to get lower cost affordable EVs? We can't live in this bubble where, you know, I go out and buy an $80,000 Lightning, and and now I'm going to get an $80,000 Rivian next month. That's fantasy. You know, that's not what most people in America and across the world live in. So I love the fact that this is coming out. I think this is an awesome alternative for ID.4, making a great vehicle even better.
So
I think that key 29,995 is the big number if you are, you know, fully into the federal tax credit. And if you order one now, obviously it applies until it's signed into law. And so that, for me, that's the key. Like that is obviously, there's destination to add on to that, but that's the psychological threshold. It's effectively a 29,995 car for a 62 kilowatt hour battery. And I think that for me is the big number. And, you know, go and cross shop this with some combustion stuff. And you're not a million miles away all of a sudden on price. And
some states have state incentives too, like here at Martin in New Jersey.
I saw
because of the price that we get a $4,000 cash on the hood discount on that if it's under 45,000. So
it got renewed, didn't it? Last week it got renewed with a new 64 million fund, and it's off you go again.
We leave it to New Jersey to implement a fantastic program and then just completely botch it. It's been the worst run state rebate.
No.
And I know all the state rebates because I do the dealership training. So I have to know state to state how they're implemented, you know, how you apply for them, because I have to help dealers explain. I'm actually going to Connecticut next week for a couple of dealership trainings. And how we've done it here in New Jersey is pathetic. It keeps get funded and then defunded, not defunded, but it runs out of money every year in like 2 months. So then for 8 months, there's no tax credit. So, and people don't know that. The dealers don't even know when the funds are going to run out until they're out. So they have deals on the table, contracts being signed, And then they find out the next day, oh yeah, by the way, the rebates is over. You've got to go tell your customer they're not getting $4,000 off this vehicle. But I mean, I digress. While it's functioning, and right now it's functioning in New Jersey. If they just funded it in August, if you want an EV, go get it right now, because I bet it's going to run out of money in a couple of months.
So a 26 grand car for good range, great family utility, and if you like driving a name like VW, and lots of people do, they feel comfortable and they know their dealer and bada bam. This is a brilliant, and made in the USA as well. So, such a fantastic deal.
Yeah.
It's what they've been working towards for 2 years. So, and been talking about.
Right. So
and Martin, we also have no sales tax in New Jersey. Not to keep talking about New Jersey. So $7,500 federal tax credit, $4,000 cash on the hood, no sales tax. Out the door. Was it 26 grand?
26 and 1,200 destinations.
Yeah, for a new ID.4.
That would be great.
Now it's affordable. That's what we wanted. Now we're talking affordable electric family vehicles.
So this is $3,700 around cheaper than the previous base model. So I think in this, since it's a lower price, and like we were just talking about the BMW, it's like $4,500. Does it really make a difference? You know, why would you get the decontented version?
It's not.
And this kind of price tag neighborhood, I think that difference is a huge thing. $3,700.
Keep in mind, Dominic, that the car has all of the same functions and features as the next one up. It's just the battery pack is different.
Well, it's missing a few other like a few lighting things here and there, and
you'll use them once and it's a novelty. It's effectively the same car. Yeah,
I'm pretty like it gets all the same assistance, everything you would want in this car, even lane change, auto lane change.
I think it does, yeah. And it's on the new software too, right? So, which is supposedly a lot better than
what it had been. Spent the last couple of weeks with the new software, and big, I would say, improvement.
Right. And what was the ID? What did you peak at on the ID.5 big battery, Kyle?
181 delivered.
181. Okay, cool.
But I think about 175 into the battery pack.
That's really good. I mean, that's really good.
It's actually not the best. You have to pull in dead.
Oh, okay.
You have to get there at 0. And then as soon as you hit 20%, it basically ramps up. So it does the 470 amp current request until you hit 20%, and then it falls off a ledge. I think the 0 to 80% time is no different than the earlier charging curve, because that had a fatter middle section. I have to go and analyze everything. It's not as big of improvement as we think.
Interesting. Anyway, so that I think that's going to be rolling out. So the cars from the new factory from Chattanooga, I think they're going to start going on sale in October. But I think they're starting with the big battery one. I'm not sure when the first deliveries begin for the small battery. Andrei, did you see that anywhere?
Oh, sorry, I was muted. No, I think I read somewhere that by the end of the year, but I can't point to the source.
Right. Now that you mentioned, I think it did. Dan.
It'll be before the end of the year. I think I will be driving it in October. So not like before the end of the year, they'll have drivable ones.
All right.
Robert Angermiller made a comment. I'll pass since I live in a cold climate. That's something that we should point out. With this lower range, 208 miles, no heat pump. If you do live in one of the northern states, it's going to be limited. And you might be talking 150 miles of driving range in the winter, which for most people, that's fine for daily if you can plug in every night. But it is a consideration. Once you start getting down around 200 miles EPA and you live in a cold weather climate, especially if you don't have a really efficient heating system, this doesn't have the heat pump, you're limiting yourself. So it's something to consider. At least there's going to be trade-offs with the smaller battery and bringing the cost down. But like we talked about, we're talking under 30 grand. For if you qualify for the federal tax credit, there's going to be sacrifices you have to make. You're not going to get everything that you get in a $60,000 car at that price point. It's still a great deal, but if you do live in a cold weather area, it's something to consider.
Just quickly on when people get them, by the way, because a series production started last week, as we talked about. Deliveries October though. Now look, it's not the end of the world because plenty of cars get built in China and sit on a ship for the next 6 weeks. But I just wonder why that was. It's a US made. You can get this to anywhere in the country within a couple of days on a transporter. If July was the start of series production, why those vehicles are sitting around until October to get to dealerships, whether they're going to do a blitz like the ID.3 and you'd be like, right, everyone's got them now.
Right.
Or I don't know. I don't like the idea of EVs being sat around.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I don't know about that. Kyle, you have any insight into that?
No idea how they're planning to do this.
Okay,
So-
maybe
so
give Dustin a call or something. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what their plan is, but one thing I will tell you for sure, I'm hearing from a lot of Lightning owners. They're contacting me and saying, like, Tom, can you try to find out why my truck hasn't been delivered, because it was produced a month and a half ago. If you remember, I got mine nearly 2 months after it was finished production. And all of the manufacturers right now are having severe carrier problems. There are shortages in truck drivers. And I talked to Ford about it, and they're like, look, we've got, 10,000 Lightning, 5,000 Lightning, sitting in the parking lots. We can't get them to dealerships. So it's possible that Volkswagen is preemptively tempering, expectations and saying, October, and maybe they'll start trickling in the middle of September or something like that. Because if they say, oh yeah, we're starting production now, they'll be in dealers in September, and then they're not till October 1st. What happens? People are saying, oh, there's delays, there's problems. So I don't know if that's the answer, but it could be. They could just be being very cautious because there are tremendous issues. Everything is short. Like, what the hell happened in the world? Like, you can't get anything anymore. You can't even get truck drivers to deliver vehicles to dealerships now. And Ford was telling me, we just can't get the vehicles off our lot. It's there's not enough drivers.
This is crazy times, man. It just never ends. So we should move on to the next story real quick. So I think this story, or at least parts of it, I think should be taken with a grain of salt because it's a lot of speculation. It thinks, we don't know the source exactly. So the site Muscle Cars and Trucks says the successor to the C8 Corvette will be an all-electric sedan and a direct competitor for the Porsche Taycan. Then, taking a page from Ford and its Mustang Mach-E, it will use the Corvette branding on an SUV. So, I don't know. Kyle, is this believable to you?
Sure, it seems very believable. Why not? Everyone wants SUVs. That's the trend. Ford pioneered this, putting the Mustang badge on an electric SUV. It was a controversial move. I think at the end, it played out really well for them. People really wanted it. The diehard enthusiasts were pissed. Guess what? They can still buy their combustion sports car ones. And I think as a branding exercise, cool. The one thing I hope GM does is make sure it drives well.
Right. Yeah, definitely. It has to keep that sort of like heritage, sports car heritage in whatever they make. So it said a sedan, like the story says sedan and not a coupe. So I'm thinking it's like going to be like a
we
Porsche
don't
type.
really know until it comes out. It could be
Right.
anything really. We don't know what markets they're going after. But if you look at what GM's been making, they've been going hard into the Lyriq. They've been going hard into the Blazer. And so they definitely feel like there's a small to mid-size crossover electric market. And they've put out multiple models in this segment. I wouldn't be surprised if they do a spicy one.
Right. And if you're watching this on YouTube, we have a picture from the motor1.com article. It's like a rendering of a possible Corvette SUV or crossover. And yeah, it won't look like this, but that doesn't look so bad either. I don't know. I don't mind that. I think there's a sporty SUVs are fine. I think they're doing well, actually. Right.
Saved Porsche.
Right. If you go back.
Lamborghini Urus,
Saved Lamborghini.
Right.
Hate to say it. Yeah.
The Lamborghini, there was just an article, I think on Motor One yesterday. I saw a headline. They're like making huge increases in sales, and it's mostly down to the Euros, which should have a few more trims coming out soon or something. I don't know. But yeah. All right.
I mean, look, they've got the platforms and they've got plenty of cars that can be donors, and they've got all the supply. So it's a case of when do you want to make it?
2025 apparently for the car. And before that,
and
though,
I'm
I think
pretty sure GM, some executives talked in the past, like they want to expand the use of the Corvette brand, and alluded to the fact that they might make more than one Corvette badge model.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's a good move. I think it's yeah. Corvette's got a lot of you know, a lot of cachet as a brand, and
It's more recognizable than the Camaro name, I think, especially outside of the US, because the initial rumors said that GM was going to make a Camaro electric sedan.
Okay.
But now this rumor contradicts that, and these people from Muscle Cars and Trucks or whatever it is, they are adamant that they are right and that the previous rumors are wrong.
Right. I mean, if you look at if you go to we have the source, the link to the source in our article. But so if you go to the muscle cars and trucks site, to check out the muscle cats, you're weird. So they do have like the source, like the name of the actual person who was speaking to people at GM about this. So I think there's a good possibility that this is legit, or I wouldn't have put it up there if I thought.
They also point to the fact that they've been right before. They also say that should give them extra credibility.
Right. Well, you start naming names. I like to feel people have some amount of integrity, right? So I'm not really familiar with this site, and I was perusing it last night. They have a lot of interesting and provocative sort of articles and things. I don't know. It's an interesting to think
I think
about.
it's more blog-esque, this site. They have more opinion that gets into the articles, I think.
Right. Yeah. All right. I don't know if we want to say anything more about that or move right along. Okay. So a couple of things to talk about before we get to what we've been driving. Just really quickly, MG EV Roadster was teased for the first time as an electrifying MX5 rival. I don't know if that's more of a UK Europe thing, I guess, for MG. Andrei, you get MG in Romania?
We used to back when they sold the, what was it called, the TF, that mid-engine thing with a transverse engine. That was the last one we got here.
Oh, really?
So MG Europe and MG UK, different companies, but they have obviously the same product line coming out of their Chinese parent supplier.
I think we might get the new Chinese EVs here, but I don't think they're available yet.
The Mg4 pricing was announced today. I'll mention that in a moment. That's going to be on their new modular scalable platform, or scalable platform modular, or rearrange those words. And so I would imagine this would be on something like that, and that would allow them to start to make some interesting cars in this sector at a half decent price. We say it all the time on this show, never going to be a massive seller, but people want them or want to see them on sale, even though they don't actually go and spend their own money on them. They're going to go buy a crossover instead. But I think it's really cool that cars like this that are coming out. Mg4 pricing came out today. Starts at, if I do mg.co.uk, it will be in my search history. So the Mg4 pricing came out today, and I was looking at that and thinking, I'd very much like to buy one of these. So it's an ID.3 competitor.
Okay.
And 3 different specs. Is it not going to load because of my ad blockers? Probably. There we go. Starting at £26,000. We have no incentives left here, so no money to get off or anything like that. But 26 grand for a brand new car. That's got the 52 kilowatt hour battery, which is good for just over 200 miles. It's a small light car. And then you've got the bigger battery one, either the 28,000 or 31,000 cars. But with decent stuff like 360-degree parking cameras, all connected. So they pay for all your data and wireless charging inside, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. Everything is electric and heated, wireless phone charging. And for 31 grand, 64 kilowatt hour battery, I think, 280 miles WLTP, which is, on a good day in decent weather, knocking on 300 miles of range for an ID.3, golf-sized family car, but from MG. So I think absolutely a brilliant bit of news today that they haven't gone with the rest of the market and are just using inflation to wildly overprice stuff. But look, if you don't want all the bells and whistles and the big range, but still a 52 kilowatt hour pack, like, get the base model for 25, 26. And, I think that MG will do really well with this. Styling is really interesting. I think it's contemporary. It's kind of funky. It's, it's not going to hurt too many people's eyes.
Okay.
But it looks nice, and like I say, it's on MG's new platform that will birth the next set of their vehicles, and this is the first one coming from it.
Interesting.
Is this a crossover or a hatchback or something in
Hatchback.
between?
Yeah, it's a hatch. Yeah, so
Okay.
that'll do well with the European market. So a nice little European hatch to go up against the other cars that are in that price range, but be much bigger than the likes of a Corsa or a Peugeot E208. Bigger size, more family, 2.7 meter wheelbase, which is pretty big, so lots of room inside. The Ioniq 5's got a 3 meter wheelbase. It's only 12 inches shorter than that. So still a pretty decent sized car.
Yeah, it's no Cooper born, but it looks, the price is good. Hey,
25 grand. It's a great price.
Yeah. So MG is kind of like the value brand in Europe, basically the value electric brand.
Becoming it, yeah,
Right.
increasingly well known for that, occupying the place that Kia and Hyundai were 20 years ago, especially
Right.
Kia, as they've moved. They're selling EV6 GTs now for 60 grand, and then that opens up room in the market. And this will get good competition from the Stellantis brands, the Citroens, the DSs, and stuff like that. But this is for this kind of car, European market, starting at 26 grand. Brilliant, thank you, MG.
So I have a couple of other headlines. Just want to touch on really quick, just like a couple minutes. So Lucid cuts its 2022 production forecast again to 6,000 or 7,000 EVs. I don't know, Tom, do you have anything you want to say about that?
Yeah, it's not good. They just keep cutting production estimates, and not a good look for Lucid. I know they're blaming it on supply chain issues. It's hard for us to know for sure if that's a problem or if they're experiencing, internal production problems themselves. It's not a good look. They've got to ramp up production, and it looks like that's not going to happen in 2022. So,
they have a cash buffer to carry them through.
They do at this point, but that's it's not going to last forever. They've got to start pumping out vehicles. They've got to figure out a way. They have some new hires to help with supply chain stuff. Right. So, but they've got to figure it out. I mean, I know I have companies like Lucid that doesn't have the let's say the supply relationships that like Ford and GM does. And that makes a difference. I don't think a lot of people really understand how important that is in times like this when everybody's fighting over parts. The suppliers are going to favor their long-term partners that buy hundreds of millions of dollars worth of parts for them for a variety of vehicles, rather than this little upstart that they're saying, I wonder if they're even going to be here in 5 years. I've got to make sure Ford and GM's happy because I know they're going to be here. I don't know if Lucid will. So I think that makes it even worse. In tough times, the little guys like Lucid is going to suffer even more than the established brands.
Right. I want to say, so another little bit of news I need to mention because, so Nico Rosberg has taken delivery of the first production Rimac Nevera, and you can find an article on that on Inside EVs, and it's a great video that Nico produced, so we can't show it you on our stream, but the car looks awesome. It's so shiny. It's ridiculously. They have it in this like room inside the new factory. They're in a temporary space. Rimac is like growing exponentially all the time, and so they keep moving buildings. They're working on a big campus, but right now they've reconstructed an old shopping mall, and so they're working there. Anyway, it's a great video. There's no driving. There's a driving video coming up that I'm looking forward to, but definitely check that out because it's worth the time. And also Tesla opens up a real swimming pool at a supercharger station. Kyle, when are you going back to Europe?
2 weeks. So I'm going to definitely swing by and I'll see it.
Okay. Right.
Yep.
So this is the weirdest thing. I don't know I tweeted about it and someone asked me, but I don't know anything about European culture, and I guess I don't really.
I mean, you don't wear a towel in the sauna. I'll say that much in Germany. So culture is different, my friends over here.
It's weird to me, but I think the Germans I asked about this seem to love the idea.
Yeah, it's been hot there, right? It's been super hot.
Yeah, I mean, it was 100 degrees in Frankfurt yesterday.
Right. So that's kind of crazy. So this might be I don't know. They're gonna need some sort of filtration system and like ladders, and I don't know.
It will need a big filter. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know how that's gonna work really, but anyway,
I
we'll
don't
see. It'll be.
really
It'll
know
be.
what's
If you-
going on with this.
This looks like half a shipping container, to be honest.
Yeah,
I think
or
it's
like
what
a
it is.
car for a battery
Just cut
fire.
the top off.
Yeah.
or that's, people mentioned that you could dunk a whole car in that if it was like on fire and put it out.
But that's
Um,
not really a big deal.
No, it's not. But there are places that have these things, like these huge containers full of water, just for that purpose.
Yep.
But anyway, yeah, that'll be a great video, Kyle. The first one to go.
You're not going to
swimming.
catch me swimming on camera. I don't like swimming anyway.
Okay.
But yeah, we'll make a video. I will. Yeah, we'll do the thing.
Oh, what's this here?
Oh, this is some pictures I saw on Twitter earlier today. I just remembered as I've gone back and found the Twitter post of people inside it having a little dip, enjoying
Nice.
themselves.
Is this the Tesla one?
Yeah.
Oh, it's open for public now. It's
Yeah,
open
look,
for...
there's a guy in his speedos in a minute. There we go. There, oh, Mr. German speedos.
Yeah,
Whoa.
that's,
There he
that's
is.
Germany in a picture.
That
add
is
add
Germany in a
200 pounds. That's Germany in a picture.
Oh.
And I don't think those people were using the pool ironically. They were really enjoying themselves.
Right.
while
I mean,
the car was
if it's
charging.
100 degrees and if the water looks nice enough, I guess it must be
Yeah,
filtered somehow.
must be.
I can't really see the whole scene from here, but
I'll make a video on it and we'll explore it.
okay. Anyone going with you this time when you go back?
Yeah. Oh,
Timon?
I don't know yet.
Alyssa? Okay.
Don't know yet.
You better take Alyssa. So
She doesn't like Germany.
oh,
Germany's
okay.
not like the most exciting country. I like it because there's no speed limit, and
Right.
no one else likes it because it's flat.
Okay. Well, right.
Southwest corner, you go to the Black Forest, really nice. Everything else, a lot of traffic.
Right. Gotcha. And currywurst.
Oh, great currywurst.
Yes.
I have to try that. I've never actually tried it, but I hear everyone talking about it. And I need
Oh,
to.
amazing. You'll always find me at the Sairways gas station rest stops for the best currywurst.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about what we've been driving this week, and let's start with Andrei because he's this is your second time on the podcast, I think, Andrei. Right.
Yep,
So
second time.
so you were in the BMW i4 M50 recently, and you have an article on Inside EVs. You reviewed it and you shot a video for it. Actually, and I really
shot a
loved
video.
I loved
Yeah,
your
I-
opening sequence, man. Those were some great shots in there.
Yeah, thanks. I really enjoy driving on that road, and I've driven all the sporty cars that I've ever driven on that road, and so I can compare them. And I took the M50 there, and it's the car I've braked the most in, to be honest, because you don't know how much speed you're carrying, and then you look down and you see that it's like 100 kilometers per hour.
Right.
And 90-degree corner is approaching, and yeah, it's 2.3 tons. I cannot not talk about the weight in this car. To be
Great
honest.
shots, though.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I had a blast shooting this video. To be honest, it was pretty good.
Like you see, you just rotating just a little bit around the traction's a little bit.
Yeah. It allows you to have a little bit of fun, definitely. But the weight thing is daunting. That's why I would maybe consider the eDrive 35 model because it's lighter than the other ones. I think it's almost 100 kilos less than so 200 pounds compared to the eDrive 40 with a bigger battery pack. So maybe that will have a big impact on the way this thing drives. Although I doubt it. It's still too heavy. It's still over 2 tons. So I don't know.
Yeah, but keep in mind, they'll probably adjust the suspension tuning for the eDrive 35 to be a lot softer anyway.
So it'll be softer, yeah. Yeah, definitely. This car felt scary to me on this road, and I've driven cars that are more powerful than this here. And I've driven the M4 and M3 here, and I could drive those quicker and maintain a higher speed through the corners. This you have to brake a lot and keep looking down at how fast you're going or at the head-up display. It's good for straight line stuff and impressing your friends and pressing them to the backrest of their seat. But as a driver's car, I'm still not convinced. I'm looking forward to BMW's next generation of EVs, because these ones that it sells now, which are based on internal combustion engine vehicles, where they are a bit compromised when it comes to packaging and a bit too heavy. And I have driven the iX, which does hint at where BMW is going to go with its future EVs, and I liked it more than the i4. Even though I'm not an SUV guy at all, I probably would get the iX.
Right. Hey, didn't you write the headline or write up that post about the iX going around Nürburgring or something? Was that you? Maybe it was Dan.
So.
Oh, maybe
I
it was
don't
Dan.
think so.
There's something about
I think it was the M60, the top one, right?
Or watch like a hippopotamus or something around the Nürburgring. Or,
yeah, but it's
like a well-trained ballet dancing hippopotamus or something. I don't know. I forget. I forget
the long title.
Sounds like a good title and something Dan would have written, but I don't remember. But what I can tell you is that I found the i4 more scary to drive quickly on a twisty road than the iX, which is even bigger, heavier, and taller. So
it's funny you mentioned
the weight. The bespoke platform really does help, even with handling.
It's funny you mentioned the weight, because that's like the big number that jumps out when you compare this to the Tesla Model 3. It's what, I don't know, Tom, maybe 800 pounds difference, like something significant. Maybe it's not 800 pounds.
I thought it was around 600 pounds, but it is bigger than a Model 3. It is. It's
okay.
Kind of in between 3 and S size wise.
Oh, really? Okay. See,
it is quite a big car. It's like 4.8 meters long. Not sure how long that is in inches and feet, but it's big. It's like 5 Series big. That's what it felt like to drive it anyway.
Interesting.
And I drive a 3 Series, and I parked this car in my usual parking spot, and it was much more difficult to park. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I hadn't realized that. Cool. So you also had the Citroen Ec4. Now, we don't get that here. Maybe Martin's familiar with it, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the C4.
That's a very alien looking car.
Okay.
But it's actually very, very lovable. It has probably the most comfortable non-adaptive suspension that I've ever experienced in a car. Maybe Kyle should give it a shot when he's back in Europe. I think he might find it interesting. It's the ride quality is amazing, and the powertrain is it's ubiquitous. It's used in many cars. It's the 100 kilowatt motor and the 50 kilowatt battery pack that Peugeot used to put in all its vehicles, and now Stellantis has inherited it, and it's going to improve it and launch an entire range of vehicles on this platform, and some of them will make it to the US. But I don't think they will get the clever suspension that the Citroen has. That makes it very, very unique, and it doesn't corner very well. At least it leans a lot, but it's remarkably relaxing, and you would not expect it looking at this vehicle with its strange headlights. And I think I took a few shots. If you can get them on screen, maybe.
We're looking here.
Yeah,
so, here's the site. Yeah,
I mean, look at that face.
Looking very Citroen. Yeah.
Well, I think it's the trendy new look that all automakers are using now, with the split light cluster things, with the daytime running lights on top and the actual headlights lower down in the bumper. I think it's a successful look, but it's just weird.
Right.
So the comfort is like the big thing, and it was fairly affordable. So my tester was almost fully spec'd, and I think so it costs almost 40,000 euros. But with the incentives we get here in Romania, it was 30,000 euros. So it's an interesting proposition and a real head turner. Everybody looks at this car because it's still fairly new, and not many people have bought it, and people don't know what it looks like and what it is, and they will definitely give it a second glance.
Oh, and you wrote up a first drive on Inside EVs for this too. Okay.
Yeah, you can check out the gallery to see that face better.
When did that publish? Was that this week?
I think it was last week.
Okay. So you can just search for Citroen on Inside EVs, and it should pop right up, right on. Oh, Bruce was asking if you'd driven a Porsche Taycan on that road.
No, Porsche is very elitist here. They don't even respond to my emails. So yeah.
Oh, so no.
No, no, I
Not
have.
yet.
I've only been a passenger in a
Not
Taycan,
yet.
sadly.
We'll have to get you somehow a Taycan in Romania
Yeah,
because
definitely. Fly it
that's
over with a chopper and drop it off at the end of the road or at the start of the road, and
because
I'll
it
be
just
there.
feels so good. It's a good benchmark, I think, that
Oh,
to have.
definitely. I
Yeah.
feel handicapped for not having driven it, because especially since I like sporty cars and sedans, and I was really excited to drive the i4. And I even say in the video, I think the Taycan might feel a bit like this. I felt a bit awkward saying it, but it was
Right.
what I really felt while I was driving.
Right. Sure. Hey, so Kyle, you drove, or you didn't drive? Did you drive the ID Buzz? Did we talk about you with the ID Buzz?
No, driving it in a couple weeks.
Okay. And actually, I think we might have talked about the ID Buzz a couple weeks ago or a week ago.
I think we
Yeah.
already discussed it.
Right. So I don't know why I have this on my list today, but you did drive the Porsche Taycan Turbo Sport Turismo, which is kind of, speaking of Taycans, this is, I think, the Taycan basically. So
you'd go turbo over Turbo S?
oh, that I don't know. That part you tell me. I don't know. Would I?
Well, it's.
I
just
think
the
he was
same
referring
thing,
to the
but
Sport
more.
Turismo part.
Oh yeah,
I was
Sport
thinking of
Turismo
the
is
Sport
awesome.
Turismo part, like low wagon, basically.
Yep.
Yeah, that's and maybe I don't know what spec I would.
Didn't you order one,
prefer.
Kyle, or something?
Yep.
You put an order in for the wagon, right?
Yep, for a Sport Turismo.
Okay.
Great.
Yep.
So
So
originally you were
why
looking at the Cross Turismo, right?
it's really the same thing. So I originally ordered a Cross Turismo, and that was an order. And then they announced the Sport Turismo right after I ordered it. So I canceled that and said, "Oh, that's the one I want."
Right.
So then I ordered that, but it's going to take forever to come in. That's why I got the Model S to hold me over until this comes over.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
but great car. Had a blast with it on the Autobahn. I did a lot. I'm actually getting the same exact car in a couple of weeks again when I'm back over in Europe, with some of the new software on it. I think it was supposed to have the new software on it. It didn't. So everything I wanted to do, I couldn't really do with it. So we're trying again in a couple of weeks with the newest software that will improve efficiency. It will improve charging performance. We spoke about this story, I think, a couple of weeks ago. And yep, it was just a great car. Love Taycan. No real news from this particular loan other than a lot of high speed, a lot of, just looks amazing. The spec on this one was crazy. Night vision, screens in the back. Thing was 200 and something thousand euros. Totally maxed out, and no glass roof. So slick top, which is great to lower the center of mass a little bit. Very German press car spec here. And
Right.
It should also be quieter without the roof, right? Without the glass.
I mean, it was dead silent in there. Really, the only time you heard noise was above 150 miles an hour. So that's when you heard something. It's a very impressive car. Gets up to speed like nothing else. And yeah, definitely enjoyed it as always. They're fantastic, which is why I've ordered one. I think it's one of the best electric cars on sale. The numbers on paper don't just really reflect how great this car is to live with.
Right. It's really like just the feel, right? Oh, go. Sorry, Martin.
No, it's fine. It's just talking about cars to live with. I was talking to my friend Richard, who owns one, who because he came to Kyle's media event at the end of last year. Richard Simons from RSEV makes great YouTube videos as well. Day job is selling Teslas and buying and selling Teslas, but he also does all EVs as well. He owns and drives a Taycan. And he was telling me how frustrated he is in terms of things like the software updates, because he was saying that they've made an amazing machine, this awesome driver's car, which is what they're good at. They know how to do engineering. But when it comes to updating the software, he said he's just having all of these problems. And it's a case of now download it and put it on a USB stick and stand on one leg. And if the wind is blowing from a northerly direction, hopefully it'll take. And it's like, he's like, how can they get it so right in some places, but as a car to live with? When he came to do the software updates and stuff, he's like, it's so unnecessarily difficult, and they just haven't got that bit of it right yet, even though it's a beast.
Even worse than that, if you want to update to the newest version, you can't do it yourself. You have to bring it to the service center and leave it for 1 to 3 days, is what I'm hearing.
Is this not a VW group thing? I mean, they're
probably
not doing software very well, are they?
Yeah. No, the whole group, Cariad, I don't know how much of a role they played in Taycan. I don't think much, because Cariad came out after Taycan. But software is their biggest problem. And Taycan's no exception. It's complicated. And I can't tell you how many times I've had little bugs and different Taycans for different reasons. It's just such an overcomplicated car that usually when I'm in one, something goes wonky. This one actually was, I think, the first time I had a Taycan where everything worked perfectly for the whole time I had it.
Nice. And you have a video with this where you took it for a full speed on the Autobahn for the full battery. Did you go to the full battery?
No, I didn't. I asked if people wanted to see it. No one really asked for it, so there's no need to really shoot that. But I did a test and got, you really get not much range at high speed, to be expected, like a combustion car too.
Right.
And that's no different than anything else.
Right. And what is the top speed?
This particular one will do 270 kilometers per hour indicated, 269.
What is that in freedom units?
Yeah, 160 something miles an hour. Yeah,
fast. Okay.
You're pretty good, but like you still get M5s and 911s that walk away from you.
Oh yeah, really?
Yeah, so you can keep up with them, and then you're just like, oh, the M5's just walking.
167 miles an hour, and someone's like just walking away from me. That's crazy.
Yeah, especially 911s. You get all the like Carrera S Porsche company cars that are ripping on the autobahns between Munich and Augsburg, and at night, like you just and they corner so hard, those cars. This corner's pretty hard, but again, it's a lot of weight that you're moving. Those 911s can take some of these corners just flat out, and they're braver than I am. But yeah, definitely not the fastest car out on the autobahns, that's for sure, but spicier than most.
Right. And probably, I think it's one of the better looking, the Porsche looks great, of course. The 911 looks great, but, the Taycan wagon is just
it's the
so
car.
Sweet, man.
Yeah.
And low like that. Oh, okay.
After last week's podcast, I'm just working on some stuff about driving EVs around the world. I went to go have a look at some Autobahn crash stats, and they are surprisingly low.
Oh, really? Okay.
And when an Autobahn crash happens, it tends to be pretty bad and shuts the road. And it's not good news. But as a percentage of where accidents happen on German roads, if you're thinking, is it, driving 150 mile an hour, 180 mile an hour, is that an unsafe thing? The proportion of accidents happen very, very rarely in those sections of the roads. They're good drivers.
But they can be dangerous. Like it requires so much, I would call it social analyzing of other drivers to do that.
Really?
Because you can start seeing when someone's thinking about moving over, and I'm like, I'm hard brakes, and then they pull out because they're not looking. So you got to be on. And if you're even a little bit tired or not, fully on it, and if the light's in a weird spot, if your headlights aren't on, then you don't go fast. And I always slow down around other cars when I'm really, really close. Typically, I'm not going to be driving. You can see I'll probably inch to the left here for some traffic. That's just kind of the kind way to do it, is, not just sit in the left lane all the time, but give people a little bit of warning, a little bit of room. You don't want to scare anyone when you're going by them.
Right. Those huge speed differentials, man.
Yeah, that's what really gets you out there is like you need the ceramic brakes in Taycan because you're hard brakes sometimes, and sometimes you're just hard brakes out of an abundance of caution. But it's great to have all that extra braking power.
You ever get to the ABS kicking in on Taycan?
Yeah, many times, all the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we were talking last week about the new Brembo Sensify system. Yeah. And I was just wondering, if that would make a big difference in the experience of braking. It's just something that you do in the Taycan, like hard in those conditions.
Yeah, I don't think it really would. I mean, the nice thing about ABS is you feel it in the pedal and you know exactly when you've reached the limit. Also, with an electric car, you can really hear the tires working. So you can hold the car at threshold braking before ABS even kicks in, which is technically the fastest way to stop. So I really like the braking system in Taycan because it will hold regen through ABS, 265 kilowatt regen, even under a full anti-lock braking situation. It's an incredible system. And what's funny is I just landed last night, and then at 3:00 this morning jumped in the Model S because I'm heading out to California. And obviously you can't drive like that in America, but I was in the mountains of Colorado ripping on the way to the Supercharger in the Plaid, and the brakes suck. I was like, whoa, I got to go so deep in the pedal to get this thing to just think about slowing down. You
just went from driving, Kyle, like the best braking system to the worst. So
Pretty
like,
much.
you know, you really should have been able to feel the difference because,
I
you know,
did.
driving a Taycan, and which I have on the Autobahn, the brakes are amazing. And then to come back and drive an incredibly fast car like the Plaid, that the brakes really are not sufficient for that vehicle. Like you had the perfect experience. You must have been just like, oh my God, how bad is this?
Yeah, but I have thankfully a huge Mountain Pass Performance brake front and rear upgrade sitting in my garage for the Model S,
Oh, sweet.
which needs to be done 3 weeks ago.
I was going to ask about something like this. If is there aftermarket stuff for that?
Yes.
Okay.
So
Right on.
we're just doing pads, fluid, lines, rotors, and then I think we're spacing out the caliper a little bit because it's overall larger diameter. And then there's also a master cylinder brace because the firewall actually flexes under hard braking in this car. So we're going to brace that up so that it's a better brake pedal feel.
The firewall flexes.
Yeah, when you go
Firewall
hard throttle,
flexes?
the
I-
brake booster itself physically moves.
That's
All
That's
Teslas do this.
that's crazy.
Yeah, so there's a little boost. There's a little kit Mountain Pass Performance cells that pushes it all into place. So when you're hard brakes, it doesn't deflect.
Okay.
Why isn't it like that from the factory? I mean,
Right.
it must be a known
A
issue.
lot of
or
cars
something.
flex. A lot of cars flex. It's not just a Tesla thing.
Okay.
But I would say everything I wanted to do was increase brake pedal feel to be better, sharper, less mushy, and also increase thermal longevity of the braking system. And I think this will do it.
Right on. Kevin N says you shouldn't produce a car that is capable of acceleration like the Plaid and not have the brakes to stop from low speeds. Indeed, I
Totally
agree.
agree.
And
Yeah,
it's an
and they
expensive
should-
car. There's no reason why people will pay whatever extra it costs to have proper brakes.
Make the car 10 grand more, put some big steel brakes on it. And it would cost 3 grand more. I think the whole upgrade kit was less than $4,000 front and rear for this car.
Right.
And that's aftermarket. The OEM
Yeah.
could do it for much less.
Way
you know?
cheaper. But as a percentage of what the car costs, it's like this is
Yeah.
such an important component, and it's
Yeah.
3% of the car.
And what's Tesla's unofficial performance? Is it called Unplugged? Those guys. They're
Yep,
in the
Unplugged.
They have a relationship for sure.
they're in the building next door in California. Well,
Right.
they're next to one of Tesla's buildings.
Right. They just
and-
happened to be there, and then they built a relationship with them because of the
They're
proximity.
very, very close to Tesla in terms of getting access to vehicles before they're not on Tesla's books as far as I know, but I would call them the unofficial performance partner. It's as close as the relationship gets
Yeah, I
without
wouldn't
being.
be surprised if it's a bit like an AMG situation
Yeah.
in the early days, and I could see Tesla maybe acquiring them and having a factory unplugged performance version. These are all things I could see happening.
Yeah, and if that was in the configure, I know Tesla are brutal with their design studio. There's like no options for anything. But if there was an unplugged option in there that was, you could add big margin to that, and I think people would go for it. Maybe it'd be a good acquisition.
I think it would be interesting to see what happens there. I know that's what the unplugged guys' ultimate goal might be. I mean, I've spoke to them years ago about this, and they're like, "Yeah, that'd be really cool." So
Yeah.
I think they're at least open to it.
Cool.
Yeah,
I don't know what their
definitely.
thinking is today. I can't speak on their behalf, but I
Right.
would love to see a spicy factory Tesla, AMG, BMW M, or more like an Alpina in this case type
Yeah.
of situation.
Right. I like some of the mods that they put on. What's that guy with Model 3, Black Model 3? What's his name?
Zach, yep.
Zach. Yeah. His car, he's got UP stuff on his car, and I think it looks really great.
Yeah.
But then again, when you talk about stuff like suspension add-ons and brakes, mountain pass equipment, I don't know. I'm just familiar with watching them work on the track and listening to them. As I have confidence in what they do,
Yep.
and I've heard great things about their.
Look, everyone's making great parts. I just really love Sasha's work. I like that it's not and it wasn't really one or the other. I was just talking to Sasha and we're like, yeah, let's just do it. So we ordered a whole bunch of stuff for the Model 3, full suspension kits, and then stuff for the Model S as well. And they just make the cars fast, and they don't charge like a big Tesla tax. It's like they're just making parts to make
Right.
the cars faster out of a passion for speed. That's what I like.
Yeah, they're nice guys. Maybe we
Yep.
should have them on the show. Maybe we should have them as guests, like Sasha. That'd
Yep.
be great. I mean,
Should
I've never
be
spoken
easy.
with him before, but
He's great. You would love him. And
Yeah.
the best part about Sasha is he can drive
Yeah.
so well. This dude rips, and he makes incredible parts because he's an engineer. He's just the perfect guy for this.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. So, really quick, tell us about this trip you're on. What's going on?
Yep. So taking the Model S to California for Tesla takeover, and I don't know too much about it, but we're going to can't even remember the name of the town. Some at the Madonna Inn northwest of LA somewhere, San Luis Obispo, I think. And then it's supposed to be one of the largest Tesla meetups. And yeah, really, I think a lot of people are going to be there. I'm looking forward just to see what's going on, take a look at the culture, meet some electric car owners, and it should be pretty neat. Plus, I needed to get a road trip in here in the US, so taking the Model S on its first trip.
The lineup, the 6 kind of keynote speakers, yourself, Sandy Munro. There's a finance guy who I see on Twitter who's like a big Tesla shareholder.
It's
Ross or Russ, someone.
Ross, yeah.
And yeah, it looked like a really good group of people who know Tesla and can talk to electric vehicles, and yeah, it looks like a fantastic event. So
I was really surprised that they invited me because I'm not a Tesla fanboy. I mean, I love the cars, right? But I think you and we all know I'm pretty critical on the cars, and so I thought it was pretty cool. I'm really looking forward to seeing all the owners and seeing what's going on in the community. Should be super exciting.
Right on. So I didn't realize you were going to be talking there. You didn't. Addressing the crowd.
I don't think it's like anything official. I think I just have to go up there and say I make YouTube videos and.
Okay. You are playing it down again. What you do?
No, I really don't think it's anything major.
Oh, there we go. Well, look, they've put your face on the leaflet anyway. So,
wow.
That's it, Ross Gerber. I see him on the side. Obviously, he's a one-sided opinion. He'd never criticize Tesla, but he's
sometimes he's his own.
Andy, I've seen criticize Tesla increasingly, and yes, there's a nice mix of people who are clearly in of a certain mindset, and some others that are a bit more kind of three-dimensional. But that'll be a really, really good lineup.
Trying to think. I subtweeted Ross the other day. I took issue with something he tweeted. I like Ross, and I was just trying to be. I don't know if I came across as lighthearted as I meant it. I was just kind of looking real fast, but I'm not seeing it anyway. I'll move on. All right, so we're at that with Tom. You've been pretty quiet over there, but you've had quite a week this week. You got to hang out with Darren Palmer from Ford and talk about your F-150 Lightning ownership experience. So I don't know, maybe you can tell us about your F-150 Lightning experience too, and maybe a bit about anything you might have got from this conversation with Darren.
Yeah, so I put the video up on my YouTube channel, State of Charge. Also embedded it in a post on Inside EVs. If people want to watch the whole thing, it's long. It's like an hour long. We actually, Ford actually reached out to me and said, we're interested in hearing your feedback on your Lightning experience, honest feedback, complaints, whatever you like about it, what you don't like about it. Darren would like to talk to you about it. So I said, fantastic. Can we do it? And record it. And so I actually wasn't expecting that. I thought they just wanted some kind of candid feedback. So good on them for allowing me to just talk freely and ask Darren about things about my vehicle. So, I talked about some general things. I'm not going to go through everything. Watch the video if you want. I talked about the charging curve. One of the things we talked about earlier that Kyle was talking about was, I think now I even forget what vehicle were you talking about, Kyle, where you plug in. You have to be the super low state. It's the new Volkswagen software, the ID.4. And one thing that is interesting about what we're learning about the F-150 is it does something that's different than every other electric vehicle that we've tested. It has this early, and Kyle first called it like the boost charging strategy. And what happens is when you plug in, you get max power. Now we're used to seeing that at a low state of charge, as Kyle was describing with the ID.5. You get a higher kilowatt draw if you're at a super low state of charge. It's like that with Tesla too. In Model 3, I can pull to 250 kilowatt, but only for a short period of time at a very low state of charge. But one thing that I'm seeing now with the Lightning is at almost any state of charge, up to 60, 65%, when you plug in, you get the maximum power that the vehicle can take in, up to 170 kilowatts. You only get it for 5 or 6 minutes, but you're getting it at any state of charge. And that's really unique. We're not used to seeing that. And it's actually really good because when you're driving on a long road trip, you can't always take the car down to 5% state of charge. You have to go where the charging stations are. Now, people like Kyle and I, when we're on road trips, we can get creative and arrive at a charging station at a specific state of charge, and we'll go out of our way to do that. But when people are on normal road trips, they might have to pull into a charging station at 30% because the next one, they might make it to zero, but they'd be concerned about running. Most people don't feel comfortable when they're taking their EV under 10% state of charge, especially on a long road trip in an unfamiliar area. So what Ford did was they said, look, almost at any state of charge, except really high state of charge, when you plug in the Lightning, you're going to get maximum power for 5 or 6 minutes. So that 30 to 80% is going to be like 20, 25 minutes to charge, or 40 to 80%, even 50 to 80%. You're going to get maximum power for a good period of time. And that's a unique charging strategy. So I asked Darren about that, and he really explained it the way I just did, was that, we know people aren't going to be able to drive the vehicle down to zero. So we wanted to give them maximum power at almost any state of charge. So if it's a quick plug in and plug out, like, don't forget, on many road trips, you don't need to charge to 80, 90%. Sometimes, let's say you're driving 300 miles or 350 miles, you might only need to add 50 miles just to get to the destination where you're going to. So now you plug in and it's a 10 to 15 minute stop, and you're going to push in 50, 60, 70 miles of range, and then you can unplug and go. So, I asked him about that. We talked about some of the things I wasn't really necessarily happy with, the Lightning things I think Ford can improve. I don't want to go through all of those things. Watch the video. I also talked about one thing that's important was we're getting feedback. I haven't installed my Charge Station Pro yet. That's the 80 amp bidirectional home charging station. I'm going to be doing that in a couple of months. I'm doing a whole service upgrade at my house, Charge Station Pro, intelligent backup power. I'm going to put out videos on all that stuff. And I just applied for the permits and everything. It's take me a little while to get that done. But what the people that have installed Charge Station Pro are reporting is they're having all kind of problems with overheating. The charging station is either shutting off or it's derating the power. You're trying to deliver up the full maximum it can deliver is 19.2 kilowatts, 80 amps. But people are plugging it at 80 amps, and in 15 or 20 minutes, they're getting notifications on their phone. The charge station has reduced your power draw to 7 kilowatt instead of the 19.2. So I asked Darren about that, and he explained they're aware of the problem. All the charging stations, well, most of them at least, have built-in overheating capability where if the vehicle operates, if the charging station gets out of the operating temperature, it'll either shut off or derate power. And that's what's happening with Charge Station Pro. The operating parameters, temperature parameters that they had it set to, the way Darren explained it was that it was too low. The shut off for where it would derate the power was too low. They're going to increase it like 7 or 8 or 10 degrees. It's kind of it's a little troubling to me to hear that they designed this and they didn't test it. Like Darren's answer was, well, we didn't expect to get that hot. That we have, this has been a very hot summer, and in some areas of the country, if it's 100 degrees out or 110 degrees out in Arizona, and this is outside, the unit's baking in the sun and so forth and so on. So what their answer is, they're just going to send an over-the-air update, which these are over-the-air update capable, and it's going to increase the parameters at which the charging station can deliver its full power. I don't know if that's going to correct it, because, it doesn't seem like in extreme conditions that what he's going to raise it like 10 degrees or something would even matter. And also, how did this not get fully vetted before? Why wasn't this thing out in, the Arizona desert, plugged in and seeing how hot the internals get when it's delivering it? Because delivering 80 amps is a lot of power.
It's a lot of power.
So yeah, besides the ambient temperature, the unit itself is going to heat up. So we're going to have to monitor that. I'm going to be monitoring it closely. I'm going to talk about it on my YouTube channel, talk about it in Inside EVs to see if this corrects the issue or not. I'm going to be getting mine installed soon. So that was one thing that we talked. We talked about supply chain problems for the Lightning. We talked about, Darren. I asked him flat out, how come? Why didn't Ford understand earlier that there would be such demand? Because they had to stop taking orders after like 6 months, and I'm having people stop me on the streets now and trying to offer me money for my truck. So there's a huge opportunity for them to be selling hundreds of thousands of vehicles. And his answer was, look, we did focus groups, we did studies, we did all this, and we were pretty comfortable with the volume that we planned to make for the truck, which is by the end of next year, they're going to have the capability to make 150,000 a year. So, it's hard for me to accept that after doing extensive studies, their answer was, after 2 years of selling the vehicle, there's going to be demand for 150,000 a year. I think right now they could sell 200,000 of them this year, maybe more. So, we asked them about that. We asked them about towing. I asked them that, I've had people say, oh, the Lightning's garbage because it can't tow a 10,000 pound trailer, 1,500 miles twice a month up mountains. What's your answer to that? And, he said, well, we do offer other vehicles. There's going to be some use cases where maybe a diesel F-150 would be a better choice, but he kind of backed off of that. He was saying, look, this can do it. And if I was the one towing, I would still elect, this is Darren, I would still elect to take my Lightning. He owns a Lightning. It's his daily driver. He loves it. He talks about, he's done with gas and diesel. He said, this is it. The Lightning ruined me. I never want to drive a gas vehicle again. So his answer was kind of like, look, I would deal with the hassles that might be associated with towing with the Lightning, being able to charge and having less range. I don't know if that would be me. I think if I was towing 2,000 miles across, from North Dakota to Texas, with 10,000 pounds, I probably wouldn't take the Lightning as much as I love it. There's going to be use cases that it doesn't work perfectly for. But then he also alluded to the fact that, in 2025, they're going to have the next generation of electric trucks, and it's going to be, they're going to be able to solve problems that they don't solve today. And, I think he was hinting towards possibly 800-volt battery system, longer range. So, we're only a couple of years, I think, from seeing that in the Lightning line.
Yeah, 2025 is not very far away. Oh,
I was pretty satisfied with Darren's answers because, first, he was very honest. And didn't hide away from any of your more difficult questions. But also, it made sense when you think about it, because Darren talks like a normal guy. He's not there, he's there in his polo shirt and he's just chatting away about electric cars because he's passionate about them. But, you have the CEO of Ford, one of the mega corporations of the world, and then that's split into two bits. There's the combustion bit, the electric bit, and you have and Darren as the VP of Model E. And he doesn't talk like someone who is that senior, who, if you think it through his job, right, that is to argue at board level for investing billions and billions of dollars of shareholder money. So we all sit around 2 years ago and go, hey, they can make 1 million of them a year, and they'll sell every one of them. And, BMW had their results this week, and their CEO Oliver Zipser said that the first, that they're going to go full in on hydrogen, and they're going to make either the first hydrogen 5 series or something for where EVs don't work. And I'm tweeting, oh my god, this hydrogen isn't the answer for personal transport. But no. I'm not the CEO of BMW. And if you are in his position, you can't go to the board and ask for billions of dollars without doing all those studies and doing all those things. And fair enough, a couple of years ago, I don't think you asked the average person, would you drive an EV? The numbers were probably way more conservative than we all thought they were. So,
and not just an EV, Martin, an electric truck.
Yeah.
They asked, would you drive an electric truck? And that I could see a lot of people saying, because now it's been proven that it works. But 2 or 3 years ago, I think a lot of people were like, oh, hell no. Electric trucks won't work.
So he can't say, "Let me spend all this money," because I feel it. Because I feel it. Like, so they had to do all the stuff, and Steve Jobs was very famous for not doing focus groups because you can't ask people what they don't know. You can't ask someone, "Do you want an iPhone?" if they've only ever used a BlackBerry and never experienced an iPhone. So, look, it is an impossible situation to try and predict going forward, and none of us are in that position. I thought he answered very, very well, very honestly. And I'm amazed that he put himself forward for this because, like I say, he flies in terms of management of a big car company. He flies pretty close to the sun. Like he's
right.
like, you don't get many interviews with someone of that level, of that caliber. But you don't think when you listen to hear him speak, he just talks like a normal guy who loves electric cars. So very, very cool interview. Well done, Tom.
But Ford culture is like that. If we had the Sandy Munro interviewed the CEO, not Darren Palmer, wrong. Jim Farley and Linda Zhang, who's the chief engineer of the F-150, and Doug Field, who used to be with Tesla. He's the chief EV officer at Ford. They were all on Monroe, and it's like such a relaxed, conversation, like very normal. I don't know, just really down to earth people, especially Jim. Jim Farley. He's like I don't know.
It's like a buddy.
Not what you'd expect.
Easily have a beer with him. And there's one point where he chokes up Sandy Munro because he says, "Look, without you, without Munro tearing things apart and being critical, we wouldn't have moved forward so quickly." And bless Sandy, got a bit choked up there at the end. But but Darren also says, like, the quickest feedback loop they've got is going on social media, like listening to what Tom says and Kyle says and watching this podcast and just regular owners who don't have the kind of platform that we're fortunate enough to have in an audience, just talking about their experiences. And he says that they are absolutely obsessed with listening to real feedback because that is the quickest feedback loop to they know they're learning quickly. So if you have a problem with your Ford or whatever, I genuinely feel like you could email, I don't know what his email address is, but you could probably guess, first-name.surname at, Ford.
Oh, please don't tell people to do that.
No, but I genuinely feel that his office...
That's it. Ford will never work with us again.
Yeah, I genuinely feel that you could probably email his office, and his office would probably pass that on, and they'd see this. Whereas some companies, you'd never email Tim Cook or whatever. It's probably like tim.cook at Apple or something, but you'd never do that. I genuinely feel Ford want to learn, and you could feed back and say, "Hi, I bought one of these trucks. This wasn't a great experience." And I think that, you might hear back from someone. So I was really, really impressed. And they didn't sound like they knew it all already, which all big companies do. They never say that they haven't got all the answers. And he was like, "Well, we haven't got all the answers, but we're learning." So it was amazing.
And one of the things that's funny was, so my video actually went out the same day. That Sandy Munro's video with Jim Farley and and the whole Ford crew went out. We didn't know that. I didn't know that. They didn't know. And Munro's Twitter account tagged me and said, something to the effect of, "So Tom, I see you interviewed Darren Palmer. Why not CEO? Was he busy?" And quite honestly, and Jim Farley's great. I'll take Darren every day of the week. And I mean, I'd interview Jim Farley also, but I love Darren's enthusiasm, his honesty. Not saying Farley isn't honest. He seems like he's a real genuine, honest person, but Darren is just locked into electric vehicles. And as far as I'm concerned, I'll interview him every day of the week.
So we're going to wrap it up here in a second, but was there anything else this week that you were driving?
So we did the Bolt EUV range test.
That's right.
And the Bolt EUV came up with 231 miles. And interesting thing is there must be a lot of interest in that vehicle because it's been in the first 4 days, it's the #1 video on Inside EVs for the last 3 months for views in the first 4 days of viewing. So there's a lot of interest in this. Yeah. Ended up with 231. The EPA combined range rating is 247. The EPA highway range rating is 222. So we beat the EPA's highway range rating with it. And, this is the EUV is a great affordable electric vehicle. GM or Chevrolet just lowered the price. The LT model of this is like $27,000. The Premier starts at $31,000. And I mean, doesn't qualify for any federal tax credit. It would
Right
qualify
now.
for state incentives. Well, we don't know if that's going to get passed.
Right,
You know,
right.
but you know, fantastic value, great family mover. I'm a big fan of both the Bolt EV and AUV. We've already talked about the poor charging, DC fast charging. We don't need to go into that again. It's not a great road tripper, but for a lot of people, that's not needed, and did really well.
It's like the Bolt EV, but with like more space and a few nicer touches.
It's like 6 inches longer, and you don't get more cargo space. It's interesting. All that extra space is rear leg room. And the cargo area is almost exactly the same, but you have a lot more rear legroom. It's better for families. It's better. It's a better EV if you have child seats and you have kids that you're putting in the back. If you're just using this as a commuter and you're not really using the back seat, you're probably better off just getting a Bolt EV. But if this is something that you're gonna pile the family into frequently, the EUV costs a little bit more than the EV, but it's a better play.
Right. And it's the same drivetrain. So does it any noticeable difference in the power? Like
it's a little slower. Yeah,
okay.
a little slower.
I mean, Bolt EV is pretty quick.
Yeah.
In the wet, man, I had a hard time like taking off without spinning the tires, and like the dry it was fine, it was great, but in the wet it was like a little annoying. Actually, it would spin so easy off the line.
Yeah, well, it's still powerful. Has more than enough power. It's a little bit slower than the EV. It's heavier. And it has you can get Super Cruise in the EUV. You can't get Super Cruise with the EV. You could also get the sunroof, and you can't get that with the EV. The Super Cruise work pretty well. I use that for most of the trip. One thing that really bothered me was how strict the monitoring system is. Now, I'm all for monitoring, and I like that. And my Lightning has the monitoring too with the Blue Cruise. But it seemed it was to me that it was overly onerous. Like if I didn't pay attention for like 2 seconds, and when I'm doing these range tests, I love the ADAS systems that allow me to go grab my camera. I'm looking at the road and I'm paying attention. And quite frequently, if I'm going to do something like that, I do it when there's no cars around me, and there's no one in front of me, no one behind me. And it seemed like every time I just wasn't paying attention for a second to grab something or looked over, it starts beeping and wants to disconnect. It almost was to the point where I was like, if this can't take over the driving for a couple of seconds while I change the radio or grab something, then what's the use of it? It needs to give me a little flexibility. And I felt like it was just a little too, onerous, the monitoring. It should be loosened up a little bit. I understand the lawyers probably got involved with that, but it just, that was the only comment I had. Super Cruise worked great on the roads that it was effective because it uses the mapping system. It has to be on the pre-mapped roads. I thought it worked great, but I would just loosen it up just a little bit. I mean, there was one point where I grabbed like a snack, a power bar, because I started early in the morning. I didn't eat anything. And as I grabbed it and pulled it over and I'm opening it up, it starts beeping. And I'm like, Jesus, I can't even grab a damn, power bar and grab something to eat without it freaking out. And I just think it should give you a couple of seconds.
Yeah. All right. So I don't know. Anybody want to bring up anything else before we end? Nope. Okay. So I guess that brings us to the end of our show. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave them on the Inside EVs forum podcast thread or on our YouTube or Twitch comment sections. If you like the show, please give us a thumbs up. We really need those if you're watching us on YouTube. And don't forget, you can find and follow our panelists on Twitter. Follow Andrei and Adele. Are you on Twitter? You're on mute, but definitely subscribe to his YouTube One Tire Fire channel for all kinds of reviews.
I'm also on Instagram, but it's still kind of small.
Okay, what's your Instagram handle? What's your Instagram?
one_fire_YouTube something.
Okay. So you can find Tom Malogny at Tomalog, that's with 2 M's. Martin Lee is at EV News Daily. Kyle Connor is at It's Kyle Connor. And I'm at Dominic_Y. Click subscribe and tap that bell icon for notifications, and we'll see you all again next week. Ciao.